So amazingly, we've done one predictions video this week that you could check out yesterday for Saturday night's main event. Now we move on to All Elite Wrestling, because it's also Double or Nothing 2025 pay-per-view weekend. So we're going to use our nerd brains to try and predict it, and we start off with Okada versus Mike Bailey. This match just cracks me up for the best possible ways, because it's been a while, but I have been on cards with Mike Bailey in the past, obviously before he got signed with AEW, because I am a wrestler in my real life too. What an absolute idiot I am. So to see him make it all this way after all the trials and tribulations he did go through, now to be taken on Okada, widely considered as one of the best of his generation, it's just going to be great. It's just going to be awesome. And I think ever since Mike Bailey has debuted in AEW, he's shown a lot of people how good he is. I don't want to call him an unsung talent, because I think most people knew. Everybody that is of that level gets to the promised land eventually. So it's been really cool. Although the sad news is, I don't think Mike Bailey is going to win. Now, I actually think it's all going to be okay, because of course Okada is a mega heel and he will cheat. He will probably punch Mike Bailey in the penis area. He'll probably use his championship. He'll be pulling the referee. He will be doing whatever he can to get the 1, 2, 3. Whereas really here, it's Mike Bailey's first pay-per-view match in AEW. Is that true? I don't know. I feel like it's true, but I have no confidence in that whatsoever. I've likely forgotten something. No, he took on Ricochet on pay-per-view, right? I don't know. The point is, it's very early in his career in AEW. So as long as he can continue to showcase what he can do and remind people that he is of the level, everything is going to be okay. And I do always like to look at the human side of wrestling, because I'm a buffoon, and he must be doing backflips, probably literally too, because he's able to do that. Getting to take on Okada surely is on most people's bucket lists, most people tip boxes, and he's going to get to do it. But yes, the main reason Okada is going to win is because he needs to keep that Intercontinental title, and I imagine it will happen soon after this show. We are going to start leaning into All In and telling you it is going to be Kenny Omega Okada. Is it part 4 or part 5? I forget. It's one of the two. And I think we're going to merge those titles as well. So the International Championship will become the Continental Championship and vice versa. And I can't wait for that. Again, we won't talk about it too much here, because that's going to go down in a couple of months. But it is going to be brilliant. Even if that's not for you, that's okay. You can ignore it. If you are into the New Japan lore, you know that it's going to be absolute fire. So Okada will win. I think he would cheat a lot. Maybe you even get some outside interference from the Young Bucks. But given they're in the Anarchy in the Arena match, I can't totally see that. It depends where it is on the card. But the main thing is, A, protect Mike Bailey as best as we can, but also just make sure he's got a program coming out the other end. That's the main thing. Sometimes, let me rephrase that. Of course, wins and losses matter. They do. But if you have a plan and you know that by December he's going to be in this position, so everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay. Okada's going to win. Speaking of Ricochet as well, we got Mark Briscoe versus Ricochet. Ricochet will win because Mark Briscoe never does. Although Mark Briscoe did get a surprise victory on a Dynamite or a Collision over the last month. There's so much wrestling on television. It's so hard to remember these things. To actually keep everything in your brain, all the information, I think is next to impossible. But this is one of those matches on pay-per-view. Like, I don't say I'm not a fan. That's too strong. I would prefer if AEW ran shorter pay-per-view cards. But I also, there's loads of people that are like, no, I've dropped my $50. I want as many matches as possible. But I kind of think this is one that could be a little bit shorter. Like, apart from personal pride and the kind of stuff we have teased on Dynamite and Collision, there's no real super beef here. There's no championship. I don't think you need to do anything between them coming out the other side. I think this can be the stepping off period. So I just think Ricochet should win, again, because he has had a couple of losses. And then whatever Ricochet does, I do not know. There surely is a championship he needs to go for. What that would be, I can't even think. But also, you'd have to figure that we start to figure out where his All-In match is going to be in Texas, because that ain't too far away. So there is a lot of intrigue here. And of course, I want Mark Briscoe to be on that show as well. I just suppose, and I like Mark Briscoe, and I would like him to be treated at a higher level. But I think by now, halfway through 2025, we can say that he's just not. And if you were going to start doing that, I think you want to throw some more momentum on him first before he beats somebody like Ricochet. I'm repeating myself, but I think both WWE and AEW have proven they don't mind doing similar finishes. Ricochet would cheat here too. I mean, he stabbed Anthony Bowens in the head with his scissors on Dynamite, so why wouldn't he do that here? And it could actually be a bit more vicious, because one, it is pay-per-view, and two, Mark Briscoe is a little bit crazy, but I think this is going to be awesome. You have two, I want to call them polar opposites, but you've got Mark Briscoe who's going to be rough and tumble, and you've got Ricochet who's going to be flippy-dippy doodah, and we've seen what they can do before, and it's just awesome, and it's just nice. It's one of those feuds that you can slap bang in the middle of the card, or can open it, I suppose, but I'd have it as match number 3 or 4. They go out there, again, it's not overly long, they absolutely kill it, they keep the crowd awake before we move on to something else. That, to me, is the perfect pay-per-view match sometimes. I don't think every single thing needs to be copy copy and paste, because just having a bit of variety keeps you on your feet. But Ricochet will win, and I'm desperately trying to figure out who he's going to feud with after this, because so many people are going to be distracted anyway with their own personal programs, but that's half the fun. That's where the interest comes from, but I would say there's little jeopardy in this. I'm going with my boy Ricochet. Baldness for life. We're also getting the very interesting match of FTR versus Nigel McInness and Daniel Garcia. Stokely Hathaway in one corner, Daddy Magic in the other. This goes back to what I just said. Hook this nonsense up to my veins. It is totally wonderful. Nigel McInness getting back in a ring is always going to be awesome. I think by now most people know his story, and we should keep on doing this. He should wrestle 1 to 2 matches a year. I understand it is the commentator becoming a fighter storyline that you can't overdo, but I think with Nigel you can, because we wouldn't even have professional wrestling as it is in 2025 without some of the exploits that him and Bryan Danielson got up to. So allowing him to, I guess, slowly run down his career on his terms, it makes me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, and this match is just going to be great. FTR, genuinely one of the best tag teams that's doing the rounds right now, one of the best tag teams ever. Daniel Garcia has proven, bell to bell, this dude knows what he's doing, and again, Nigel McInness is like a pioneer of everything we are seeing today, and it's going to be a shenanigan-heavy pay-per-view. It's what you're going to be able to figure out as we do talk about this. Of course, Daddy Magic is going to get involved. Of course, Stokely Hathaway is going to get involved. He's probably going to go after Tony Schiavone because he hates that guy as well. But because FTR have just turned heel, they have to win their first big match. And it's so easy to tell this story because Nigel McInness mentioned it on Dynamite when they did challenge him. Him and Daniel Garcia barely had a conversation. Cash and Dax are one of the best teams at doing it, so they should win. And I think the secret sauce here should be coming up with some 1-2-oohs, some near falls, some false finishes, some oh my gosh, I can't believe you, that teases that McInness and Garcia are going to get it, but eventually they don't. I've just realized McInness and Garcia can be called Mag. Or Gam, but Mag is well better, so you should absolutely jump on that. But I do actually think there'll be nonsense here too. This may be a conversation we have on Ups and Downs the day afterwards. Make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, and please do subscribe to me. I freelance for What Culture with my silly reviews. But it may go a bit overkill, and again, it depends on the execution. Sometimes you can do something over and over again. You're like, it wasn't so bad. And sometimes you can do it twice. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. But FTR is going to win. I don't think that they will cheat. I think Stokely Hathaway will do something. And I believe that's going to be their dynamic as well. FTR will keep their we're going to kick your ass kind of a style, whereas Stokely will be running around doing the dirty work they don't want to do, hence why they brought him on in the first place. So I have really enjoyed what we've done with FTR ever since they killed Adam Copeland. And Danny Garcia, he's an OG, so I'm always going to like him. And again, it's Nigel McInness, man, especially because he's from these shores. If you don't know, you should go watch some of his matches today with caution. Some of them are disgusting. But Daniel Garcia is not a tag team guy. Nigel McInness, I don't really say he's coming in as a novelty, but you know what I mean. It's meant to be a bit of fun. Neither of them are going to be damaged or get much momentum from getting the victory, whereas I truly do think that FTR should get a bunch of wins and go after the Herz Syndicate, because people would buy that Cash and Dax could beat them, and also these are the kind of dream matches we want to see. I think that would be absolute fire, but on this night, via cheating, in the third match, apparently, it's going to be FTR. And we just mentioned them too, is the Herz Syndicate taking on Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. I shouldn't say this, because it will come back to bite me in the ass, but if Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes, the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, somehow win the AEW Tag Titles, again, not necessarily win the match, but win the AEW Tag Team Titles, I will host one of these videos in my underwear. I mean, I wouldn't do that, it's got mad body dysmorphia, I had a breakdown, but I've said it now, so we'll see what happens. But the point is, it's not going to happen, and it is my big, I don't call it an issue, that's too strong because it's just wrestling and I like to take it in the way that it's meant to be taken. But we do need to do more with the challenges that are leading up to the Herz Syndicate. I mean, there's an easy out here too, as I once again book distractions. But I'd be amazed if MJF didn't help them win. Like, I don't think he's long for this group, but there has to be some sort of synergy between them. I guess you could book it the other way, where he actually cost the Herz Syndicate, but it's just not the right time to switch those titles, especially because Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara just popped up from nowhere. Oh, we'd like them now. Okay, sir, that's what we're going to do. I really do think when it comes to the tag team scene, we can build more teams and just let people bubble under the surface. So when they do go after the belt, like, well, I believe them now because I've seen what they have been doing. And I mean, the only worry about MJF getting involved is you do get way overboard with the shenanigans, but I have to see it in motion before I comment on it. But yeah, there just hasn't been enough stakes injected into this. There hasn't been enough build, not enough time. It's only been going on for a couple of weeks, so it would be crazy. Even if AEW actually convinced themselves they wanted to do a surprise, it would be a mistake. Like, we'd get a pop in the building. But taking those belts off Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley would just be a silly Billy thing to do. Like, when someone does beat them, it has to feel seismic. Like, how on earth did that happen? I can't believe it. And of course, you've got MJF waiting in the wins, and MVP can do something too. This should also be pretty short, which I don't mean as a disparaging comment to Guevara and Dustin Rhodes. They've just got their own own thing going on, and because they have come in so fast to the tag team scene on Dynamite, I just don't really think it matters. I think in many ways, having Bobby and Shelton run through two guys like this, one of who is kind of sort of synonymous with AEW, and another guy who's like a legend of the wrestling business, may actually make them more intimidating. And if that is the goal with what we're trying to do, because everybody else is just getting that it's not your night, kid, I can totally get behind that as well. Because let's not pretend that the Herz Syndicate aren't some of the coolest dudes walking around in AEW and all of pro wrestling right now. So if you do have sort of a lot invested in them and you do have a major plan, maybe at All In, why not just continue to turn them into warriors and use your roster in order to get absolutely smashed to help Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, MVP, and now MJF. Of course, the exciting thing is that whether you're looking on social media or you watch Dynamite, we are hinting at something huge with Mark Sterling and MJF. They have pulled a fast one here. That's right. They are going to have come up with some kind of a trick which they're going to pay for. Pretty bad, but I like it. Once again, one of the best stories in wrestling right now. I'm genuinely intrigued by it because I don't know where it's going to go, but I don't feel like I'm going to have the wool pull over my eyes either. I think AEW does have a good finish. Different video for a different day. The Herz Syndicate are going to win. And just to try to make some bold predictions, not really bold, but that's what we like to do, I think probably somehow MJF will be involved. Tony Storm versus Mina Shirakawa for the AEW Women's Championship. I wouldn't actually mind it if Mina won the title. She's super popular and she's super good. But it's a Herz Syndicate situation. It's just not the time, especially because All In is like just around the corner. We'll talk about Mercedes and Jamie Hayter in just a minute. But whoever is going to win the Owen Hart Cup needs to come out the other side with a huge match on the horizon. Even more so because AEW sees All In as their WrestleMania. So you want to book the big matches that make you go, oh my gosh, I need to go to that event. So I have actually been won over by Toni Storm having matches for the number one contendership while there's a tournament for the number one contendership just because she's so good as a character. She sold me on it from being like, really sort of courageous. I can take on anyone. And then she got screwed by Mina Shirakawa, which I like the fact that Mina pinned her as well. This was a lose-lose situation because some people were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Mina pinned her. Then other people would have been the same if, I can't remember who's in that four-way, but if Mina pinned someone else to become the number one contender, people would have been like, that doesn't make any sense. She should be the champion. Now she's getting a championship match or something like that. Words to that effect. But I think it's going to be really, really good. I think that it's kind of babyface. Mariah May could get involved in this to let you know that Mina Shirakawa is actually a heel. And then those two could do the Mariah May, Toni Storm story between them. I mean, it's nothing special, right? That's not the right word. It's nothing unique. The teams can't coexist narrative has been happening since I think 1422. But then I have literally booked nonsense in every single match. But would it matter if Mariah May made a big return, even if this was like second from last, and you'd had shenanigans, distraction, interference, running? I think Mariah May getting in there would get a massive pop, but does Toni Storm need that? And then do you have to go back to the Toni Storm Mariah May feud? Because if she tries to help Mina, you don't want to do it. I think it's too convoluted. Unless she goes after Mina because she doesn't like her for some reason, then why wouldn't she smack Toni Storm as well? I don't think you can put Mariah May in this. I think you would struggle to make it work storyline-wise, and then you can keep her out of the distraction thing. And also, let's say Mariah May is going to come back, save it for Dynamite. You don't always need to do everything on the pay-per-view. You know you've got a TV in a few days. You know you've got all the other things where you're going to need some form of a shock, and she's a big deal, right? She's a major player in AEW, and we don't even know if she's re-signed. That's been a big rumor. But Toni Storm will win this. I really do think you can just throw them both out there and say, just have a really good competitive match. Toni Storm hits the Storm 0, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't need to be a surprise roll-up. It doesn't need to be the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. Mina Shirakawa losing to the most over person in AEW is not going to make a blind bit of difference again, as long as there's a story waiting on the other side. I don't think you need to overthink it. I think that would be a mistake. Just put on a banger for the fans at home and the fans watching on pay-per-view, PLE, from their sofas. But Toni Storm will win. Toni Storm will retain the championship. And here we go. She is going to be facing Mercedes Moné at All In. Because I would love it if Jamie Hayter won. And I do think there's an outside chance. Now, given that Jamie Hayter aided Mercedes on the Dynamite Go Home show, wrestling logic would tell you she's not going to win, hence why she stood tall. But ultimately, I think wrestling can be super simple. And Mercedes Moné is one of the biggest stars AEW has, and Toni Storm is one of the biggest stars AEW has. So this goes back to what we were just talking about. If you have a WrestleMania-style event and you want to make sure people buy tickets and people get pumped, you book Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm. I don't think it necessarily needs to be TBS title and World Championship on the line, but you could in order to give it even more momentum, much like we did with the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan back at WrestleMania, whatever the flub, 5, 6. And people say it was too soon. It's not too soon. They've both been in the company ages now. But also you don't know what tomorrow holds? Like, what if all of a sudden one of them gets injured and we're not able to do this? Then you're going to suck forever and you're going to regret it. It's a bit like CM Punk. There were so many feuds I wanted to see with CM Punk, and then he was gone from the company. Like, well, that's never going to happen. So I think this should be the time. I think of all the matches you could present, nobody would know who the hell was going to win that. So it'd have such gravitas. Depending on the build and how people react to it, it could be the main event. Once again, I don't think it would be. But I think it has that much power and that much utter confusion, it would just turn into this seismic, massive thing that everybody would talk about. And of course, it would still be good with Jamie Hayter in it, but she's just not as big a star as Mercedes Moné, for better or worse. Not saying she can't get there, she's just not there right now. So I would do Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné at All In. As I sit here today, I couldn't even predict that, although nearer the sooner the time after I see what's happening on TV. But with all the belts and those two, it would be great, and that's why Mercedes has to win here. But also, Jamie Hayter can kick her ass. She has proven time and time again that she's bigger and she's stronger. Maybe she's not as wily and she doesn't have the experience that Mercedes has, but she can dominate this and she can take most of it, and the fans are going to be right in her corner because Moné is a great heel and Jamie Hayter is a great babyface who dresses like a Scooby-Doo character, but that makes it even better because he's super interesting to look at, so I don't want it to change. But this would be awesome. Like, this will be 4-star plus territory. But I just think Mercedes has to win the Owen Hart Cup and then has to go on to take on Toni Storm. You will find the grifters on the internet going, oh, Mercedes Moné books all of her stuff. Even if she does, it's the right thing to do. We have turned it into an absolute mammoth. And that first time she does lose, it's going to mean 10 times more than if she had lost constantly. All wrestling promotions do that. Anyone that is throwing shade at this is just pretending. So why would you just throw shade at Mercedes Moné and not at least 5, 6, 7, 8 other people in other companies that are doing the same? Some of which in AEW too, because that's how the professional wrestling business has always worked, and she's backed it up as well. Also, if I'm paying someone a lot of money, you damn right I'm going to treat it like a big deal, otherwise I would be nuts. But the point is, Toni Storm wins, Mercedes Moné wins, and then we spend the next 6 weeks, whatever the hell it is, till All In, telling this story, selling it huge. I think it's going to be great. We'll break up the Owen Hart Cup stuff too, because we have Anarchy in the arena. Can I remember this? Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale, and the Ops, essentially, Powerhouse Hobbs and Samoa Joe. Is there someone else there? Can I see my screen? No, I cannot. But they are taking on the Death Riders and the Young Bucks. Gabe Kidd is not involved. That seemed to irk some people. I think he's going to be there, so I wouldn't worry too much. And the reason I think he hasn't been put in there properly is because I have decided, based on absolutely nothing apart from my hopes and my dreams and the wishes that I do have, that Gabe Kidd will be out there going, ha, I work for John Moxley now. You're absolutely screwed, baby faces, when it turns out they have an ace in a hole and Eddie Kingston will come back to AEW TV. I will cry tears of joy because Eddie Kingston is the best wrestler to ever walk planet Earth. He is brilliant and I cannot wait for him to return. It ties into how he got injured because he was taking on a match with Gabriel Kidd, and it really needs to be a pat on the back for AEW, because if they had put Gabriel Kidd in this, you wouldn't have been able to keep it as a surprise, and maybe you would have to done it on Dynamite. It's way better if he comes back at the pay-per-view. This is going to be excellent. I totally understand the criticism of, it's a bit lame that we do Anarchy in the Arena every year, so we kind of have to build the story, so it doesn't end in the stipulation match, but it's always so much fun. The music playing, some of the spots, the fact the camera's all over the place. I was there for the 2023 one. It's hilarious trying to keep up with. It's a genuine joy. I think that Swerve Strickland teams has to win, because the bad guys winning a match like this halfway through a card, because we know it's not the main event, may sort of take the wind out of its sails. But once again, I think it all depends on what we want to do at All In. One of my fantasy bookings has Swerve Strickland and a mystery partner taking on the Young Bucks. So to justify that, do they need to win as well? I mean, does Moxie need to get his win here because he's finally going to lose that championship at All In? I mean, it really depends if Eddie Kingston and Gabe Kidd do go at it. Like, what kind of pluses and minuses does that provide the good guys and bad guys? So I do think there's a healthy dose of jeopardy here, especially because on Dynamite, at one point you had the good guy standing tall, and then later on you had the bad guy standing tall. So they have 50-50 a little bit. I will go with Swerve's team, just because I think Swerve has to remain in that sort of top guy status. So him getting the win in something like this would be huge, especially because you could pin somebody like Wheeler Yuta. And I like Wheeler Yuta, but I'm just looking at the totem pole, and it's not going to make a grand bit of difference. And the true draw, like I say, will be Eddie Kingston coming out, probably with that gas canister like he had before, whatever the flub it was, but he's going to set somebody on fire, looking like a GTA character. It will win the night for me if Eddie Kingston is back. And as I always tell you with these predictions, we're going to do fun, bold predictions, because boring predictions, what is the point? Anybody else can do that. So the good guys win. Swerve will be involved in the finish, and Eddie Kingston will come out there to get his revenge on Gabe Kidd. And maybe we do that at All In as well, which would make perfect sense. It would be a huge match. It's not like we haven't seen people from outside companies on All In before, so that would work too. And it also kind of simultaneously ties into our main event, which is the final of the Owen Hart Cup for the men. Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page. You want to go back to that Jeopardy discussion. Honestly, you could run a whole series on this. It is super tough. But the way that I have broke it down, I actually don't care. Either of them can win. And that's why AEW deserves another round of applause. To get this kind of a match where you actually root for both baby faces in a babyface match, that takes a lot of effort. So they've done a fantastic job. But just the way that they are talking and the way that Hangman kind of feels like he needs to put this Swerve Strickland stuff behind him properly so he can get back to being a single star with the success that he needs, I think that does go to All In, and you're going to have to come up with a win win to justify this. He will team with Swerve Strickland to take on the Young Bucks. That's who I was talking about a minute ago. It will be Will Ospreay who gets the win here in a fantastic match. I think it's going to be an absolute home run. He goes on to All In Texas. He does beat Jon Moxley for the World Championship, and he does do exactly what he said he was going to do, and he takes that belt into Forbidden Door in London. I just think it's now long overdue, although I understand why, for Will Ospreay to be in that scene. I think most people are done with the Death Riders holding that championship. You don't have to kill the group, but I do think you have to take the belt away with them. And I also think that you want All In to end with your biggest babyface, which is Will Ospreay right now, winning your major championship, which is this AEW title. I think that would be a feel-good moment. I think it would get people to tune into Dynamite. And given that we do have loads of events coming out, a lot of which are in Europe, Will Ospreay being the dude is the right thing. And Jon Moxley's held that belt long enough. I don't think there's much else we can do with the Death Riders. Whatever was the original plan, we've definitely deviated. So we've just come to the natural end point. Sometimes you can feel it in your bones. When Jon Moxley first won the championship from Chris Jericho, you could actually make the argument that Jericho hadn't held it that long, but you felt it in the air, right? Elton John was singing about this, and Jon Moxley had to win here. Even if it's Hangman, that still works. I'm just going with my feelings, and I think that is going to be Will Ospreay doing it. It will just be the right time, especially when it peaks in a few weeks. And just to really, really underline it, WrestleMania became a huge success, babyface winning the major title, and AEW should do that too. It worked wonderfully with Bryan Danielson last year. When Adam Cole and MJF had their match, that was a feel-good moment too. It always does feel like the ending of the season, then going into a brand new season the next Wednesday. So yeah, I'm going with Will Ospreay. I think it's going to be super tight. I think this finish could change over the next few days, depending on what kind of ideas people throw in there. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be something we talk about for a long ass time. And without wanting to throw too much hyperbole on it, for me, being the nerd I am, I'm probably going to go like, man, I love pro wrestling, and thank goodness there's a bunch of companies that I can enjoy it in. But Will Ospreay is going to win. Now, of course, other matches will be announced. As always the way with AEW, but I'm not going to be able to do it if I don't do it today, so I have done it. But more importantly, I want to know who you think is going to win all the AEW Double or Nothing matches, and you drop me a comment down there. Then please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the notification bell, and click that video on the screen, which, yes, is my Saturday night main event predictions. You can see how stupid I am. If you're into fitness, I was going to flex there. I'm not going to do that because that makes me a loser. Go to GorillaMind.com/Simon. Use the code Simon, get 10% off. And also the Patreon is finally going again. Patreon.com/Simon316 for $5. There's other tiers as well. Please check them all out. But you can come join our watch-along videos where I sit down and we watch a match and we just have a good old time. And then you can share which match you'd like me to watch next. It all ties in. I do believe the first one is going to be King of the Ring 1998, Mankind versus The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell. So that will be a treat, so come and join. Otherwise, you can find me free at social media, Simon316. Simon Miller on Cameo for cheap personalized video messages because I love doing them. Simon J. Miller on TikTok for a bunch of nonsense, including some football stuff now. Who knew? Otherwise, Big Cartel and Pro Wrestling Tees for merchandise. Thank you for the support. I am blessed I get to do this, and it's only because you provide me with that platform. Take care, my friends. See you soon.